We need to be committed to laboring for Him and working in His kingdom and what He wants to accomplish. I'm more and more convinced of it all the time. Well, the final point I want you to see here is that there's no lack of history. There's only a lack of historians. Why does God so faithfully record for us in the Bible the rise and fall of the nation of Israel? In fact, He's got it told to us twice in Kings and Chronicles and so many other books. Why does God take such a great pains to record for us the rise and fall of Israel? Because to me, it's a history that's rich in instruction for us on how not to fail in this kingdom, which is ours here today. There's so much instruction throughout those books of Kings and Chronicles when it comes to our kingdom today, how not to make the same mistake, how not to find ourselves having to be sold to Satan for a while, to go into exile for a while, so that we might be humbled and be reformed into leadership with God. Remember that the whole reason why exile came about, the whole reason why Israel fell, because it rejected God as king. It rejected God as the authority, and it sought for itself its own rule, its own authority. It got the milk and honey by the grace of God, and then it wanted to govern over the milk and honey by its own understanding. It didn't make any sense. We've got the milk and honey now we're going to do with it what we want. We're going to expand on it the way we want. They were not content to just spend the rest of eternity or the rest of history drinking that milk and eating that honey. They got bored with it. They got bored with God. That was all they had to do in that land of Canaan. It's just to inhabit it. Right? And to drink it in. And they just got bored with it. And they rejected God, and they said, we're going to go, and we're going to be like all the other nations, only we're going to become greater, and we're going to expand our wealth and build and build and build, and the whole thing went sideways. Well, some people might say that this sermon here today is a nice try for a pastor of a small church. He's abdicating his responsibility. Or these are all castles in the sand, or treasures in the clouds, whispers in the wind. I say no. I believe that history has proved God over and over as successful. And He's proved mankind, history has proved mankind over and over as a complete failure. Okay? All I'm saying is that I don't want a revival that's born of brute strength and energy and the investment of great sums of money. I'd like to see a revival that's born of a miracle, of doing things in a way that does not make sense, of seeking God again and seeing Him lead us to overcome great obstacles, whether it be Jericho or a giant or whatever. And I want to do it in a fantastic way. I want to pick up 5 smooth stones one time in my life, don't you? Don't you just one time want to pick up a sling and 5 smooth stones and throw the armor away? I want to do that one time in my life. I hope I get to one time. I want one time to watch a wall crumble by marching around it and shouting at it. Don't you? One time? I do. I don't want to win some war by brute strength. There's no real joy in that, or any joy in its fleeting. I want something far more. Well, do you believe in it? Do you believe that Christ is real? Do you believe that He's in authority today? Do you believe that He's on the throne and able to direct us, His church here in Augusta, Georgia, not just in a general sense through these words that we've got of His, but do you think He's taking an active role in the church today? I do. And I don't want to be responsible for leadership in the church. We have a leader, and it's Christ. And my goal here is to be submitted to Him and to encourage you in your submission to Him and to see what He's going to do. One of my favorite stories from history is the story of Thomas Becket. Thomas Becket was a friend of King Henry II in the 12th century in England, and Becket was made Lord Chancellor of England. He was given the seal of England on his finger, that big fat ring. He was Henry's best friend. And the most important position in the country, other than the king, was the Archbishop of Canterbury, which was the head of the Church of England. And the head of the Church of England, the Archbishop of Canterbury, was a powerful, powerful man. And he was appointed not by the people of England, but by the Pope in Rome. And King Henry always had as a thorn in his side the Archbishop of Canterbury. And when the Archbishop of Canterbury died, he saw an opportunity to take to make Thomas Becket the Archbishop of Canterbury. And for the first time in history, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Church in England, was also Lord Chancellor of England. But Henry could not foresee one small problem, and that was the fact that Becket, put in that position, might become humbled. And sure enough, Becket, this worldly, awful, rough man who went and joined the king in all kinds of terrible behavior as young men, when he took the office and began to oversee the Church in England, his heart was broken. And unbelievably, he fell in love with the Lord. And he began to see the weight of his office, and he instantly began to go against the king. The king wanted him to do all kinds of things against the church and for the kingdom, for England, and he refused. And he eventually gave up the seal of England, and the king was so maddened by it that he had him assassinated, ran through with swords in the chapel in Canterbury during a service. And that's why he was made a saint. But I'm telling you, what we saw with Becket, which was that coming under the submission of the Lord, he realized that the church is greater than an earthly kingdom. The church is greater than a king, a powerful man. That he came under the authority of the one king, the Lord Jesus Christ. And in that, he found real meaning for his life, real vision, and a real purpose. And that's what I want for you today. I want you to be reestablished with the authority of our king. We have a king. That's so wonderful to think about. You have a teacher. You have a rabbi. You have a leader. What we need is to be submitted to him. Okay. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I pray